It is Sunday evening. You are winding down from a long day of being at church and family activities. And as you're settling in, you just all of a sudden feel this sinking feeling in your stomach and you can't seem to shake it. And you're like, what is this feeling? And then you realize that this feeling is coming from the fact that the reality is setting in that you have to go back to work tomorrow morning. Oh, that feeling. Oh, if this is you, sister, today, baby, we are helping you to design your 9 to 5 escape plan. All right. And I'm going to have you put that in the comments for me because this is something that many of us have been struggling and wrestling with for some time because we realize that God is calling us to build something more, to write that book, to speak on stages, to start that nonprofit, to do something that's going to leave a legacy and impact. So if this is you, whether you want to leave a 9 to 5 or you've already transitioned, maybe you're retired, but you know God is calling you to more, then you want to get your pen and paper, and we are going to get to work to help you to create a game plan to help you to actualize that vision that God has put on your heart. I am Reverend Jocelyn, a kingdom business coach where I help women to answer that call to ministry, to answer that call to building that kingdom business that changes lives. And every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. Central, I gather together with women just like you for a huddle, if you will, where we strategize on ways in which we can leverage and lean into our faith and use the wisdom that God has given us to create this plan of action to execute so we can leave a mark on this world. Now, if this is your first time here, welcome. I'm so glad that you are here. And I want you to do me a huge favor and introduce yourself. Now, I know you might be someone who's like, wait a minute, what? But no, even if you're watching the replay or you're watching live, put your name in the chat and let me know where you're watching from so I can give you a shout out. Now, today, all of my shout outs are going to be mostly in the comments. And so I'm going to be interacting with you live in the comments. Yes, it's going to be me responding to you in these comments. But I do want to give a verbal shout out to some of my regulars out there who watch week after week. Diana, Dr. Arlene, Sheila, Vanessa. If I left you off this week, no, I love you. I love all of you. And more you comment and interact with me week after week. Some of you eventually I want to bring you on stage and definitely highlight you. But another thing that I want to offer any of my newbies out there is, first, be sure to subscribe because I drop teaching week after week that's going to help you in building this vision. So hit that subscribe button. But the second thing is I have a free gift for you. It's my ministry launch starter kit, which is designed to help you to not only build what you might think of as a traditional ministry, but also create your kingdom business plan. If you have like just an idea in your head, it's going to help you to get some of those ideas shaped, help you with the business side of ministry so you can get that off the ground. And you can download that free kit at sisterstartyourministry.com. Again, that's sisterstartyourministry.com. Lastly, as I get into the teaching today, if there's anything that stands out to you that you're like, ooh, that hit me. You know, sometimes stuff hits you in the throat. It's really good. Then I want you to put the word gem in the chat, followed by what really struck you in this moment. All right. Got the rules? All right, let's get into it. So I want to take us back to when I was first getting started with this vision that God had given me. Now, for those of you who are just meeting me, I worked at my church for over a decade. I was running the nonprofit youth center for many years, and it was meaningful work. It was good work. But around year 7 and 8, I really felt this tension. That tension, where you're like, man, God is calling me into my next. But I struggled with really figuring out what did this next look like and how? How was I going to do it? Because I was used to, working for someone else for many years. It was already a structure in place, but I never had built anything on my own. And I didn't even know what it really looked like to build a business. And if you're there, I want to let you know that I understand. And having a lack of clarity and also being a little afraid is kind of what keeps many of us stuck in jobs that we know that God is releasing us from. And one of the reasons why we stay and sometimes overstay is because is this feeling of security in our current position, right? We've been there for 5, 6, 10, however many years. And we're like, well, it's good to have this feeling of security, familiarity, comfortability, even if it's not really that comfortable, because it's at least something that I know and it makes us feel secure. But I want to point this out to you that sometimes that's what really keeps us stuck is this false sense of security. And I say false sense of security because how many of us know that there were many people who got what is considered a good government job? Oh, my people out there in the DMV area, many of them have been working in that position for years. It seemed like, man, like they were good. They were set up for retirement. But then we know what's happening right now. And this good government job that was secure was no longer secure. Many people lost their jobs. What can we learn from that? Well, first, we have to be careful to place our security in men because the only thing, the only being, if you will, that we can find our security in is God who holds us in his hands. And if God is calling you out to start your own business, then he's going to provide for you a path forward to do so. So we can't place our security in something that seems just familiar and stay there and stay stuck in these golden handcuffs just because it's a regular paycheck and health benefits. No, at some point, we're going to have to take the leap and trust God. And I'm saying that even in taking this leap, we can't set ourselves up to take what's considered a calculated risk. We can position ourselves to be able to be prepared, quote unquote, to make that transition because sometimes you get to a point where you never feel fully ready. But there are some tips that I'm going to share with you that's going to help to make that transition smoother. Now, I will say this, for some of you, it's been overtime. I mean, like you have been sitting on this baby that God has wanted you to birth for years. And if you aren't careful, what's going to happen is God's going to push you out the door completely before you're ready. For some of you right now, you already lost your job and you're thinking like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened. I got to find another position. I got to find another position. Maybe instead of finding another position, God is leading you to say, no, I want you to start your own. And if that's the case too, then listen to what I'm about to share in this episode. Okay. So again, put in the comments if this is resonating with you, talk back to me, let me know. But for me, when God had led me to really think about starting my own business and ministry, one of the biggest struggles was, okay, I know God is calling me to more. I know he wants me to build something beyond the walls of the church. But what does this more look like? I struggled with finding clarity on what the more was, right? Because I had different talents, I had different things I could do. I had this like foggy vision of what it could look like. And so eventually, after so many years of just trying to figure things out, I just made a big bold leap and I put in my resignation. And thinking back, I probably, if I were to coach younger Jocelyn, I would have probably set some things up a little bit differently, but I still made it. I was still able to build my ministry from a simple blog to a national Christian trauma healing ministry. But backing up, that road was rocky because when I first got started, I lacked one key thing, and that was clarity, and that was a plan. When I first put in my resignation, I was at a place in my business where I didn't even have a clear business model. I was writing blogs. My business started off with me writing weekly stories about how God helped people to heal from trauma. And it was beautiful, these blogs. I mean, it was inspiring, it was encouraging people. But here's the thing, the blogs, even me writing my book after I had left my position, great stuff, but it wasn't a consistent revenue model. And if I were to be honest, I did not even have a plan. I didn't have a business plan. Okay, so even if you're doing a ministry from a standpoint of a nonprofit, you still want to have a plan in place on how you're going to generate consistent revenue. Because in my mind, when I made the leap, I'm like, okay, I have my savings, I'm just going to work hard and I'm going to really figure this stuff out. But that savings can go quickly, sisters. And that's exactly what happened. And then them credit cards that started adding up, and I was like, ooh, woo, 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 woo. And so I was in a situation. And what ended up happening is after making that leap, I found myself in a financial bind because I did not plan, and I had to get another 9 to 5 job for a good year and a half to hold me over financially and do some part-time contracts because I did not have the income coming in yet from my business that's going to sustain me. And so the lesson here is this. Yes, we can have all the passion in the world, sis, but passion without a plan is a recipe for disaster. Okay. Even if you're at a place where you were pushed out the job for the 9 to 5, one of the first things that you want to do is start putting together your kingdom business plan where you identify, okay, what's the organizational structure? What is my focus for my business? What my service offerings, my products? How do I stand out in the marketplace? How do I market what I'm doing? What am I going to do to bring in consistent revenue so that I can sustain myself? Now, all of the things I'm telling you, it might seem overwhelming right now, but I'm telling you it's possible. You just need a little bit of support. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But for me, I had to shift how I was looking at doing this transition and understand that while you are working that 9 to 5, you might kind of be at a place right now where you're like, forget the people. I can't stand my boss. I'm ready to walk off the job and blah, blah, blah. You just done with the whole situation. I get that. But before you give everybody the bird and walk out the door, which you wouldn't do that because you're a good Christian sister. But before you do that, I want you to think about, okay, the people that I'm working for right now, they are the first investors to my business. They are investing in my kingdom business and they don't even know it yet. Okay. And you're going to start saving and you are going to start putting money aside and you're going to start planning and preparing and you're going to start building your kingdom business, your ministry part-time while working this 9 to 5 so that when you transition, you're not out here floundering in these streets like I was, but no, you actually have gotten a strong base so that your transition can be much smoother. And that is my advice to you. So when you are in this season where you are working a full-time job and building your ministry, I like to refer to this season as the messy middle. Why is it the messy middle? Because it's kind of messy, sis. I ain't going to lie to you here. Because you do have to put in the hours at your traditional job. Then you might have to commute home. And then you have to find the strength to also work on your business. You kind of want to position it in your mind, though, like you are an employee of a part-time company and you are an employee of your own business. And as an employee of a company, you work from 6 to 9 p.m. for another agency. As an employee, you know that you actually have to show up to work at the times that you commit. So if you say my shift for my business, your kingdom business is 6 to 9, I want you to treat it as if you are showing up for somebody else's job where you know that good and well from 6 to 9, you're not going to say, oh, I'm just going to mosey in at 6:15 or, oh, I think I'm just going to put a load of laundry in and I'm going to watch some Netflix. I don't feel like going to this part-time job. How long are you going to keep that job? You're going to get fired in 2.5 seconds. We know we would not do that if we work for someone else. But we say we want to be a business owner. We say we want to have our own company. And we actually need to understand, and it needs to compute that we're not even working for ourselves. We're working for God. Scripture talks about that in Colossians. Do what you're doing as if you're working unto the Lord. And so with this messy middle season, you are going to have to put yourself on a schedule and and honor it with integrity as if you would do for anybody else, but understanding that this job is the ultimate vision. You are doing now what's going to pay dividends later. And that's what happens, ladies, when you do the work now that other people won't do now. You get to experience what other people can't experience later because you sacrifice now. And during that messy middle, it is messy. It is hard. I'm not lying to you, but I can tell you one thing, it is worth it. It is worth it when you get to wake up every day. You get to work from home. You get to write that book. You get to start traveling and speaking. You helping people have that retreat center, having people have breakthroughs. You seeing how God is working through your ministry. Oh, it is worth it. But you have to be willing to put in the sacrifice and say, I am going to work these longer hours. I'm going to get up early on Saturdays, or I'm going to put in the extra time because I'm committed to making this vision that God gave me a reality. And if I'm talking to you right now, you better put something in the comments, because I know for some of you, you've been waiting too long and it's time. But in order for you to prepare yourself, you have to do the double. You got to do the double work. You got to work the full-time job, and you got to be preparing yourself to be able to step out into your next, to make it sustainable. Okay. So as you are in this season where you are preparing yourself, there's a couple things that I also want to share with you that's vitally important. Now, the first thing is making sure that you're clear on what you are offering as a product or service. You are not ready to go into business if you lack clarity. An idea is not a business, sister. It's just an idea. And you can get ideas every day of the week. And not every idea is a good idea, by the way. Not every idea is a God idea. But some ideas are great, but it's not necessarily a business. You don't have a business yet until you have a paying customer. So you could be focused on websites, you could be focused on all these other things, these little vanity matrix, but at the end of the day, you want to have a clear model in place and have a way to stand out above the noise, above the crowd. And so for many sisters, one of the first things I coach them on is how to develop a signature offer. The one thing that you're going to offer people that's going to really help you to stand out above the crowd. The one thing that's not going to have you out here sounding like everybody, but you are uniquely designed and equipped to be able to do this thing. What is your signature offer? Because sister, if you try to be a Jane of all trades, you're going to be a master of nothing. And so for you to be able to stand out in the marketplace, what is your one thing? But that takes discerning. And so for those who are my newbies, again, first timers, I want to catch you up to what I teach on a regular basis, which is our ministry development cycle. This is something that you'll also get, again, through my sisterstartyourministry.com ministry launch starter kit. So download that at sisterstartyourministry.com, where I cover the ministry development cycle. All right, so the four steps in the cycle include discerning. This discerning phase is when you are really seeking the Lord about the focus for your ministry, your kingdom business, the direction. How can you make the most impact? In the season of discernment, we are praying, we are seeking wise counsel, we are doing interviews, and we're educating ourselves on just different things. We're in prayerful reflection in this discernment phase. The next phase of the ministry development cycle is the equipping phase. This is when we already have clarity. I'm called to do work in the domestic violence space. I'm called to coach women to answer their call. I'm called to do X, Y, Z. Whatever your focus is, healing, deliverance. All right, you have to equip yourself for that, because there's many people who are called, like, you know, that you might have survived something that was very difficult in your life, and now God's calling you to help other people through it. Great. But you want to be at a place where you still make sure you've equipped yourself so you don't do harm to other people, right? Because there's a lot of people who want to help people to heal who harm people instead because they're not equipped. So are you getting certified? How are you educating yourself? Do you have mentors in that space? And in addition to the formal education, one of the other parts of the equipping process is making sure that you understand the business side of ministry, because passion alone without having equipping yourself or the skill set is not going to allow for you to sustain yourself. So don't just go off passion. You have to level up your skills. Do so by making sure that you have a coach in place and be a part of programs and communities that will train you. My coaching community, one of the things that I've designed is a way in which we train and we equip and we empower Christian women who are called to build ministries and kingdom businesses beyond the church. We talk about the business side of ministry. We talk about getting funding. We talk about, okay, how do you structure your ministry? We talk about the marketing side. We talk about how to write your signature story and get your books out there. We talk about all of these things because we realize that many sisters, they have the passion, but they don't have the skill sets or the strategies to be able to really sustain themselves in ministry. And so equipping yourself by joining like a community like mine or any program that's going to help you to have those skill sets is important. Now, once you equip yourself, then the next phase of the ministry development cycle is creating your plan, creating your kingdom business plan. The Bible talks about writing the vision, making it plain. You want to have a vision on paper, not just in your head, not just up here, where you're able to like actually map out, okay, this is what impact we're seeking to make. This is our mission statement. This is who we're called to serve. This is how we're going to serve them. This is how we're going to fund the vision. This is how we're going to market the vision. This is the collaborative partners. These are the people who we need to have in place, volunteers. All of that is something that you want to be able to design in your kingdom business plan. And if there's a saying around this, and many of us struggle with this area, but it's true. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And if you're out here just kind of figuring things out on the fly, sister, you're setting yourself up. Now, all the things that I talk about in terms of creating this kingdom business plan, I'm telling you, it is possible to do. And with the right support, if you have a coach who has gone before you, they can show you a way to get there easier and faster. So you don't have to feel the pressure of doing it on your own. And once you have this plan in place, the next thing that you're going to want to do is actually implement and execute. Take imperfect action. This is where a lot of us get stuck because we might be recovering perfectionists. I'm in the club too. I'm a recovering perfectionist. I have the t-shirt and I have to tell myself, girl, you better get over that. Like there are people who need what you have to offer. Take action. Yes, you might have a typo. Yes, it might not be perfect. Yes, there might be a little glitch, but you're learning. And this is one of those things where there's this mantra. I think John Maxwell talked about it in one of his books. So many famous people did. We fail forward. We learn from some of the mistakes that we make. And we don't lose if we only lose. Let me say it like this. We only lose if we lose the lesson. We only lose if we lose the lesson. So if you don't lose the lesson, then yes, it's an expensive mistake, but at least you get to take that forward. You get to share with others. You get to coach other people through it, and you get the data. You get the feedback. Failure is feedback that you can take with you. You can monetize on that feedback, by the way, and you get to grow. But you don't grow if you stay stuck trying to be perfect. So you got to get yourself into action mode, and you have to be willing to take certain risks so that you can move forward into what God is calling you to. Now, the good thing is, sisters, going back to the subject of the day of transitioning from 9 to 5 to your own business owner, some of the stuff you can be testing out while you're still employed. You can be testing things out in the marketplace. You can be building certain things up. And once you get to a place where you realize, all right, I'm generating revenue. All right, this worked. People are responding to that. Double down on whatever that thing is so that you can start generating revenue. And once you get to a certain point, you want to have a goal in mind, a revenue goal in mind, saying, okay, once I have this generated, then I'm going to make the leap. Because at some point, you have to like step out into the discomfort. You don't want to just stay in a position for your full-time job just because it's familiar. At some point you step out and say, okay, I'm going to make this happen. I've coached many women through this. And I'm telling you, it's so funny because the one thing that they consistently say is, I wish I made the leap sooner. Because as soon as they did, they was able to pour gasoline on what they created because they already had the foundation. So while you're in this messy middle right now, I want you to think about, okay, what is my revenue goal? I'm building my foundation. My current 9 to 5 is just an investor into what I am doing right now. And this messy middle is just temporary because eventually I'm going to be able to get up every day and do what I love to do. And it's going to glorify God and it's going to make an impact. Now, sister, right now, if you're watching this and you're just like, oh man, I am ready. I am ready to go. I want to reach out to you with 2 amazing resources. So, first, I am doing a workshop training on developing your signature offer. This is for my sisters who are a little all over the place, just like I was years ago, doing too many things, not really knowing which direction you want to go in. Well, you can sign up for this training where I'm going to walk you through some of the important principles that is important for you to identify the one thing that's going to have you stand out in the marketplace so you can maximize your impact. So details for that is in the notes. The second thing that I want to share with you, if you are someone who you're like, yes, I am looking for some coaching, I'm looking for some training, I want to find community because I'm out here in these streets by myself, then you want to book a free ministry and business accelerator call with me where we'll sit down one-on-one, talk about your goals, talk about your dreams, talk about those challenges and how we can get you the support that you need to answer your call. Both of those links are in the notes below. Now, sisters, I covered a lot with you today, and I hope this was a blessing to you. And if it was, do me a huge favor, make a comment on your biggest takeaway. Be sure to like and subscribe. And you know, if there's a sister out there who is tired of those golden handcuffs and is ready to leave their job, you want to share this episode with them. Now, I thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Special thanks to those of you who are watching this live. You know I love you. And be sure to set your calendar for next week, 6:30 p.m. Central. We'll be back here again for another power hour to help you grow in your faith, your business, and your ministry. Love you, sisters. God bless, and I'll see you next week.